Hey guys, and welcome back, and if you are new to the show then thanks for joining us. So here we are, Max Payne. It's been requested a couple of times by you guys, so let's get straight into it. So during the opening scene we get this police helicopter flying into New York City, and there are some obvious things that we could take a look at during this scene. One of them being the Statue of Liberty that we can see faintly over in the distance. As we get a little bit closer in with the camera, it turns out to be no more than a 2D background, but it still does the job nicely. And of course then we have the rest of the city that the chopper disappears off into. No surprise that the city at this stage doesn't have any roads or any ground at all for that matter, because at this point, weirdly, this isn't the same city that we see in the next part of the cutscene. In fact, the building Max is stood on during this part isn't even in the city we just saw. None of the vehicles in the first game have interiors, and that includes the police incident bus, which I don't think we'd expect from such an old game anyway, but there are a few things we can find that you wouldn't normally be able to see, like this snowbox. And I also thought it'd be kinda cool to show you guys an overhead view of the city, the best I can anyway with all this thick fog, as well as showing how the developers use 2D buildings for the background. We now go back to the day it all began going wrong for Max, and the first thing that I wanted to show you at this point is the room which we can never access throughout the game. It is of course the kitchen and a nice little dining room. Quickly at this point, just to let you know, when we are on a level that is based entirely inside a building on this game, there is practically nothing outside, unless you are meant to see something outside of course. But I will show you what happens if we take the camera outside one of these rooms on these levels later on.
Michelle!
It certainly sounds like Michelle is in trouble, but I was wondering, what is in the bedroom?
Michelle!
Surprisingly, it turns out that Michelle isn't even here at this point, but I did find this weird dude dancing around in the closet. At the start of Chapter 2 we get this cutscene that takes us into the subway, so I thought it would be a good time just to show how the streets are made in these cutscenes and how only the bare minimum is used for what we can see on camera. Here's the last cutscene from the subway missions, taken from a few different camera angles than normal. Keep a close eye out for things that appear and disappear and move around that would normally happen out of shot.
Hold it! Max! Jesus, you almost gave me a heart attack! What the hell's going on? There are more corpses here than at the city morgue!
It's an armed robbery, a tunnel job straight to the Roscoe Bank vault through the old station wall. Is this why? This is Lupino's gig?
This is Lupino's doing? Lupino's men? Really? We gotta get out of here. If it's Lupino, it's... Alex? Alex!
I always find it interesting to watch cutscenes like that, and if you ever wondered what was beyond the gates that Alex is behind, check it out. I guess this subway station isn't used anymore. During this chapter down in the subway we can also find some of these cute little rats roaming about. That is, unless you backtrack to the start of the chapter and throw a grenade in this hole in the wall. And that's when we find out that they're not so cute after all. This is probably just me having some sort of OCD, but it annoyed me that when we run up to this window in the hotel, a car drives past but we can't see where it goes. I guess it just drives past for the effect of a living environment, which is cool that the developers did that. Strangely, it also led me onto this car right at the end of the street, which just seems to be extremely lost. In this cutscene we can find two Maxes, and I'm not entirely sure as to why, because this one in the alleyway we never see in the cutscene or get a viewpoint from, so why that Max is there I'm not too sure. Let's just pause the scene there and take a look from another angle. Interestingly, when the building blows up in the cutscene, if we take the camera around the corner of the building, we can already see an explosion mark on this side. And if you did ever wonder what the guy was doing in the toilet before we shoot him, other than whistling, here's your answer. Max Payne is literally full of Easter eggs, and I'm certainly not going to show them all because that could be an entirely different video on its own. But I will show a couple of my favourites, like this one where we can find a secret room with a tag on the wall which reads "Dopefish Lives." The rooftop of the church seemed like a good place to do a full fly around and take a look at some more level design, and we can see how in just a moment from the rear of the church most of the texture for the walls are missing, and also how the snow effect is only in the places we access on the rooftop. If you've played this game, hopefully you will know what I mean by this, and if you haven't, it may just get a little confusing, but during the Part 2 prologue in a dream sequence, we come across a chap named the Batman. The Bat, Frankie the Bat in fact. Now, it's only the third part of the sequence that we see him, but check this out guys. Surprisingly, he's always stood behind the furnace from the start during the first two parts of the scene. Of course, this wouldn't be a slipping out video without a glitch, and here's one you can do that can get you out of the map into a small area, but also confuse the game. All you need to do is follow what I'm doing on the screen, but bear in mind it can be tricky to do. Now, by doing this, you confuse the game into thinking that you haven't progressed through the level yet, so the enemies don't recognise you there and don't bother shooting at you. You can also use this enemy as a stepping stone and jump to the next area. At this point, the game will pick up your location again and you can carry on as normal. Earlier on in the video I mentioned that when we're on a chapter that is based inside a building there's very little outside, and that's for obvious reasons. There have been other games that we've explored where we have come across objects outside of these sorts of rooms, but not so much on Max Payne. However, I am going to give you this example of what happens when we take the camera outside of these rooms. It's not all empty out there though. For instance, in this part of the game we enter the same door 3 times, and on the other side of the door it's different each time, and that's because we get teleported to different rooms. Again, it's pretty difficult for me to explain to someone who hasn't played the game, but here are the separate rooms and it's almost like they're floating in a time warp. If you are like me, you'll always want to know where people run off to when they disappear round corners, and the scientist who lets us through this airlock is no exception. But I certainly wasn't expecting him to die like that, especially when we can't see him anyway. One of my favourite parts of the game was making my way down through the car parks chasing after this van, but just how does the van get from top to bottom out of sight? Well, here it is. It's certainly not just a simple drive down, and you'll see there's a lot of trickery involved that we wouldn't normally be able to see as a player. Another little Easter egg that I've not seen any other video about is when we enter this stairwell, and if you walk slowly and don't go too far, you can hear 2 of the enemies having a chat about their favourite films, and there's even some name dropping going on.
Suspects, where Spacey walks out of the police station and suddenly loses his limb? Or hey, 7, where Brad Pitt gets to that head-sized blood-soaked cardboard box?
Now I know. Freaking zombie demons from outer space. Drowning in blood was cool.
Oh, why do I even bother? Sometimes, honestly, I don't know.
Coming towards the end of the game, and something I was going to show you with the camera but later found you could actually see this just by looking for it normally, was this helicopter model that's outside the building, and we can just about see it there by looking up. Later on it does come to attack us, but I thought it was cool that we can see this stationary model without using any camera tricks.
You know what I'm talking about. In all the cool action movies, and I'm talking about the coolest of the cool, it always seems like time slows down in the middle of the action. You know, you can see the bullets flying through the air, the hero dodging in slow motion. Oh man, it would be so cool to be able to do that. Bullet time, that's what they call it. Bullet time, yeah. Would be so cool.
Last but not least, I couldn't leave without showing you guys one of my favourite Easter eggs within the game. To get here, complete the game on the hardest difficulty and you can unlock this secret mission. Then kill all the enemies in this room and you can unlock this secret room at the back of the map where we get to see a large picture of the development team and other pictures of various locations. So there we go guys, pretty cool stuff. That is it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I know it's been a bit longer than normal, but there were so many things I felt like I wanted to fit into this episode. I thought I might as well try and squeeze them in whilst I was on it. If you have enjoyed the video, I certainly hope to see you again soon, but for now, and as always, take care guys.